Dear friends, I am Dr. Thompson, Akwo, Ntuba, international political leader, international physician, and international communicator, the chief editor of Health and Development magazine and media, registered in the USA and out of the USA, outreaching to all the continents of the world. Certified professional and expert in global health, subspecialized in global health communication and medical communication or MedCom. Global health updates. Global health updates. The Conference of Parties 26 on climate change and action, based on the Paris Agreement and the UN Climate Framework Convention. The 26th edition of the Conference of the Parties is taking place in the city of Glasgow in the nation of Scotland in the United Kingdom, hosted by the UK government and the government of Scotland and the local government leaders of the city of Glasgow. The opening session began today, Sunday, the 31st of October 2021 in the city of Glasgow, with the past president or leaders of COP26, the nation of Chile, addressing the participants and thanking all governments and stakeholders and partners who have made it possible for COP26 to happen. She talked about the challenges from the Madrid meeting or conference to get into Glasgow vis-a-vis the SARS-CoV-2 virus infection and the COVID-19 syndrome. She took a moment of silence with the participants and stakeholders in the conference hall in Glasgow for those who have died during COVID or because of COVID-19. The new president was then introduced, who took over chairing the meeting from the podium and also welcomed the participants and then invited the council member from the head council member from the city of Glasgow, who also welcomed the participants and thanked them for coming and told them to not only participate in the conference but also enjoy what the historic city of Glasgow has to offer, while they are in the UK, wishing them a successful stay. The current president of the General Assembly of the United Nations addressed the opening session and spoke about his experiences and talked about the common denominator that was found somehow besides COVID-19 in the speeches of national leaders of the different nations that are members of the multilateral association organization called the United Nations, presented in the September 2021 UNGA, United Nations General Assembly. He talked about people constantly telling or talking to him about climate change and the effect and impact that climate change is having on them as persons, as groups of people groups, communities, cities, villages, counties, regions, provinces, nations. And he talked about women, youths who have come to his office and expressed their concern and the need for a global action to make sure that the climate doesn't warm beyond 1.5 centigrade or Celsius, degrees centigrade or Celsius. And then the need for execution of the agreed provisions of the Paris Climate Agreement. This wasn't made by Paris. It just happens that the nations of the United Nations came together in Paris to have that global come together. The Chinese leader of the IPCC addressed the meeting and also talked about the science that is there and how the world needs to take advantage of that, the technology that is available, as if corroborating the position of the President of the General Assembly of the United Nations, that the science and the technology is there, and the science is in keeping with a conclusion that there is climate change and that the earth is warming, or there is global warming. Like the President of the General Assembly said, every other thing is available and working towards mitigating activities and initiatives and programs to address and manage climate change. But the missing element or factor is humans. Humans not committed. Humans not taking the decisions and resolutions serious. Humans not working to make sure that the climate and the warming of the earth doesn't go beyond 1.5 degrees. And the need for greenhouse gases, CO2, the emissions, and all the other factors that lead to these disasters related to climate change, flooding here, wildfires in the west coast of the Americas, in California, in Australia, and India from New Zealand area, talking about a history of the UK and the indigenous people and how things were being done, to steal lands and, to extinct the people and all of that. And how most of those activities are centered around greed and, undermining others in their lands and taking away lands and using them for operations and activities and industrial operations and activities which have contributed to a lot of the challenges that we have today under climate change. It's been a beautiful morning or beginning of COP26, and there is this constant saying that almost $100 billion is being mobilized towards middle and low income countries for resiliency and mitigating projects and financing of sustainable and green projects that help mitigate the effects of climate change. Yes, the earth is warming. The climate is changing. Droughts, floods, hurricanes, disasters, swarms, and we know of the climate report that is related to healthcare coming out of the World Health Organization and the provisions which are there found, but with humans in the center of it, because the health impact of climate change is enormous. We know that there are lots of people who are under the IOM protection today. They are refugees, they are migrants who are actually migrating from places where global warming and climate change and the effect on the lands, scourging of the lands, and all of that is making agriculture, sustenance pretty impossible. We have internally displaced people in nations who are actually moving, who are on the move. Not because they are cattle rearers and moving along with cattle. It's because the effects of climate change are causing them to move out of where they cannot have a sustainable existence. In that light, I can tell you of a recent travel to and stay in the state of Colorado, from the city of Trinidad, going up to the cities of Denver and Boulder, and the others in the north. As I traveled from there to Utah, from Utah to Los Angeles, traveling up to Sacramento to the city of Redding, and going through Portland, Oregon, and from Portland, Oregon, up to Seattle and the cities of Seattle, doing outreach work in global health, and some of the people that we talk to, and the people who talk to us, and the things they tell us. Make no mistake, the Earth Science building in the University of Boulder has a lot that is going on in there. And then downtown University of Boulder, we're able to study how a professor of the university was helping with flooding downtown Boulder and all of that. Yes, a recent travel to Tulsa, the state of Oklahoma, and the green walks and conservation walks that are done along the river banks of the river in Tulsa. That's wonderful. It shows that people are responding to climate change, and people are going back to nature, to the environment, and looking at biodiversity, looking at reforestation. They are planting trees. If you come down to the city of Houston, under the leadership of a very calm gentleman, a consensus builder, a respectable gentleman, Mayor Sylvester Turner, or the Honorable Mayor Sylvester Turner, who happens also to be a leader of the Green Mayors Conference, you will see that not only Discovery Green and other places, but there is reconstruction and dynamic changes here and there to make sure that certain parts of the downtown are regreen. Certain parts of the neighborhoods are being redone. And the complete community initiative of Mayor Sylvester Turner also addresses all of those things. Green spaces, people have bicycles, not much of traveling out of their local communities for them to get groceries or resources, which make people drive all over the place and all the emissions and things like that. The extension of the light rail system that is going to different parts of the city. These are very commendable, sustainable, and resilient activities that the city has embarked on and continues to do. The meetings that we had with Bloomberg and the resiliency professionals from New York. So, climate change, the Paris Agreement, is not about Paris. It could have been New York Agreement. It's just like saying the United Nations is all about New York. The United Nations is not all about New York. The nations of the world came together in San Francisco and decided that, okay, they were going to form a United Nation out of the League of Nations, and they decided that, okay, we'll put the headquarters. They could have put the headquarters in San Francisco. They decided in San Francisco that the headquarters would be in New York. And they are parts of the United Nations institutions and infrastructure that is in Geneva and other parts of the world. So let's not make this mistake of keep saying that, we'll talk about Paris and then Portland and all of that. Those are just deceptive things that people like Mr. Donald Trump and his supporters do in order to create confusion around the world. Those of us who are experts in global health know that part of our work is migration, climate change, and the health impacts of that. And we continue to actually advocate for green things, for green works, for green products, for sustainable operations. We've been with the Green Festival, as I've said before. We've been part of the Green Bill, where the architects are looking at building structures and modalities and even styles and designs that are green and sustainable. We've been part of at the events and conferences. As I said, this past Earth Day 2021, I and my team were in Colorado, and I was in Denver. And I was at the convention center in Denver during the Earth Day 2021, where the events were taking place. So there is need for the world to look at this, for the World Council of Churches, the U.S. Conference of Bishops of the Roman Catholic Faith, the other faith communities and leaders are talking about stewardship of the earth as God gave it to man, and the need for man to beautify it and make it good for human living and existence and not for destruction. So this is the update on COP26, which has already started in the city of Glasgow. And I want you to follow us and also follow the meetings in Glasgow so that at least you know what is going on in that area. You can talk about it to your kids, to your brothers, to your sisters, to your family, your friends, your students, your community. Why not your colleagues? And then also make your own little contribution to the mitigating measures put in place. Thank you.